Hey guys, I hope you are well. This is video number 2 here. Again, this is going to be a dual part video where I'm going to show you two tools in one, and they kind of apply to each other a little bit. But yeah, this is a very simple tool, pivot points and linear regression. So a linear regression tool is just a channel, right? So that's all this is a channel, and this channel is going to be found right here. Linear regression, and we're just going to be pulling like this and getting, channels. One thing I do that's different is we're going to go ahead and update our settings on these tools beforehand. So the regression trend, I go to the style, I get rid of all of the coloring, I just move the opacity to 0 across the board here, and I extend the lines, right? If you guys want the Pearson's R value, you can. It's just telling you how correlated it is to the price action, but you'll be able to see that just by the interactions. And then I change the deviations from the standard levels to 1618 and negative 1618, and I use the upper and lower deviations, obviously. So those are my settings for it. And then in terms of the pivot points, all you got to do is go to your indicators tab right here and put in pivot points. And, oops, I misspelled the word. Pivot points standard, and it shows updated right there. Okay, so that's the one you're going to want. And I've got the pivot points quarterly up already. And what is a pivot point? So a pivot point is an average of price. It is the high, the low, the close of a period of time divided by 3. So you can use this on the weekly. It automatically generates those. Like we could change this to the weekly right now, right? So we can go to the weekly, and you can see you've got more because there's more information. You can go to the daily, get a ton of information. It's not going to show up because we're on the 4-hour that well. You can go to the monthly here, and you can even go down to like a yearly, okay? I track them on a 6-month basis as well. I track them at the 2-year basis, which now it finally has. And I track them bi-monthly, and I track them bi-weekly. Bi-weekly, everyone that is in my old groups were always asking me how I came up with these great caveman levels. It is the bi-weekly pivot. That's all it is. I always said it was so easy a caveman can do it, and now you guys know, so hopefully you guys appreciate that. So let's go back to the quarterly here. We're going to stick with the quarterly. I actually have a folder dedicated to these because I like to map them out myself. And why do I like to do this? Well, let's kind of recover for the price action that we're at now and talk about it. So this pivot point is generated by this price action. So from the 1st of the year to the 31st of March generates this average of price right here at 49,522. Okay. So we have our pivot point. What did we do as the trend was breaking? We came back to the average. We formed a lower high. And then once we gave the level up, giving you a perfect back test once and twice, you sell off, right? And you're probably wondering, well, how do I get targets? Because this is just a pivot point indicator. Well, if you go to Fibonacci on the type, I would prefer Fibonacci because it's loosely based on the golden ratios. 1, 2, and 3. I don't use these on the daily time frames. You guys caught me using them today on the weekly time frame, but the reason I was is because, well, we're trying to keep analysis pretty simple. I wanted to give you guys a level that was very easy to manage, and I think it was like 45,800 and price tip just beneath that. So it gave you guys a pretty good little area to work off of. But you can see we came down to the S1, that's target 1, kind of got a little bit of action there, and then eventually coming all the way down to the S2 of our quarter 1 pivot. So it gave us the support zones right away. All right, so this tool can give you targets as well. But the most important thing to note here is this 49,522. We're giving up the average. So price comes back to the average here. And when we're back at the average, buyers they're interested. You get a pretty good bounce actually. And then once it gives up though, you have to know a trend change is coming. This was a bearish 3 drives pattern. Some people are calling it a head and shoulders. It doesn't matter what you want to call it, it's bearish. And this is telling you and confirming that if you did not sell right here, or you did not sell up here, that you should be selling right here, looking for lower prices. And you can derive targets if you'd like. They're not going to be perfect, but it's going to give you some DCA targets like here and down here, right? So you'd just be buying towards the low of S2. You could just be like, all right, well, if I'm DCAing, I'm going to buy right in here, and I'm going to buy right in here. All right, and that's if you're only using pivot points. Now, if you guys are using the other tools that I'm giving you, you guys will be buying a much better window by utilizing this information. You'll be able to tell, okay, well, I should be really buying probably this whole like drawdown right here. This is probably the best place to be getting your Bitcoin, is in this region, and you get these moves up, and we'll talk about that in a second. So how can I tell when the trend is ending? When does this matter? Because you can see that we've got a new Q4 pivot right here at 52,217, which is pretty much our exact high of the last quarter. So we know that if we get back above this level, we would be looking up. And we'll talk about that in a second. This is the pivot from Q3. What happened after Q3's trend reversed? Came back to the average. All right. So how can we utilize another tool to tell us when that's going to happen? Well, pretty simple. Remember our linear regression tool. Okay. So we're going to use this based on time. A lot of people will just pull this to pull it. They'll just say, well, here's a section of price. I should be pulling this. And we broke out. And so that's how I know. And yeah, I mean, you can do that. It's going to be very subjective though. And if you use the standard values, it's going to be a really big range. So what you're looking to do on a trend tool like this is pull it with the same average that you're with. So we're going to be setting up based on time. So we're going to pull it from the 1st of the year to the 31st of March, the 1st of April to the end of June, the 1st of July to the end of September, and then October 1st to the end of the year. I obviously save all of these. It's a little bit on the, manic side of things, I suppose. But you can see right here, here's Q4, right? You can see that we haven't tapped our pivot technically yet, and we are below it. So we need to know where is our S1. S1's down beneath us here in the $41,000 region. You guys recall, we have a high cluster of these averages in this area, right? So we have a really big area right here of support, and it does come in at the S1 of our quarterly pivot as well for Q4. So it is supporting the idea that if we come down here, these high time frame pivots that were present before, plus the S1, plus you've got the yearly pivot there in terms of every 6 months, things like that. It tells you that this $41,000 level in this region is going to be good support, or at least we make the assumption it is. Now, if we go to Q3 here, right? And we say, well, Q3's trend started here on the 30th of June at 1900 hours, and it runs to the end of September. And you can see we're up above our trend, right? We're getting a reversal off of the S3, or R3, excuse me, resistance 3. You reject here. We target the middle, or the R2, right in this region. So now you are targeting this. You're targeting the middle of your channel, and the R2, you're targeting this box, which is a pretty nice box. Let's go ahead and add a border to this because it's just hard to see. We'll do it like so. That way everybody can see it. There is your box, right? And if we cannot get back out of this box, what happens when we lose the R2 and we lose our trend? Well, the R1 is here, but really we're just looking down to the average because the trend is now broken. The trend is no longer your friend in this instance, and a new trend is going to begin. And so we have to keep that in mind. And so if we get rid of that and we turn back on Q4, you can see this is our new trend. 1 quarter's trend ended. We touched the average. Get rid of these because there's just a lot going on here. 1 quarter's trend ended. We came back to the average of said quarter, and now we've got a new trend, and that trend is down. So we're looking down to the average again. Or if price reverses from here, we're looking up to the pivot at $52,000, which is at our range highs. If you're just looking at it from a structural standpoint, from the overall high of the range to the overall low of the range. And then if we get out of it, we have targets to the upside we can generate, right? So really simple tool to wrap your mind around. It is really, really effective though. So this is Q2, right? So we lost Q2's pivot. Now we are coming down. We already talked about, we had the S1 and the S2 for supports. We come down and our trend begins to reverse. Where are we targeting after we lose, or we regain this pivot right here and the trend is reversing? And if you guys were following me back in the day, I was giving you these levels because they're very important. So we're back to Q1. Here's Q1. We're reversing. The trend is now ending right here, catching the bottom really, really well. We reverse trend, and where are we going to? Well, we're looking up to the Q2 pivot once it's over with, which is right in, here. Q2 at 42,986. You can see there's a nice rejection. We get above it. Where do we go after that? We go to Q1, right? And the top of our regression channel telling us this is a take profit, and we should expect the bottom of the channel again. You can see that we came down here. And again, guys, we're not looking for perfect. We're only looking for pretty good, giving us an idea of where to look for the market. Gives us another nice consolidation. We regain the pivot, We target 49,522. If we get above that, what do? We pull our support and resistances from the quarter and we hit R3, we reject right here, and then down we go and we have a new trend. So pretty simple stuff. It does even apply to quarter one. Okay, so you're just pulling these based on quarters. If I need to show you guys how to use this tool by itself, I will, just so that everybody knows. So again, this is from the first. We're just pulling our linear regression tool right here from the 1st to March 31st, or the end of the pivot period. And look, here is your trend. The trend does end. Where do we go? Back to the quarter one average. What happens if we lose the average? Well, we're heading down, right? And we didn't have this pivot at the time, so we'll get rid of it. We didn't have that one yet. So we are trending down, and we're just targeting, if you guys recall, we had S1 over here, and then we had S2 all the way down here, catching the low almost perfectly. So really, really simple stuff, things that you guys can start using today. Would love to see you guys posting linear regression channels in the chat, because these channels are really, really effective. You can use them down to, you know, as little as like a weekly time frame. You can use them on daily time frames. I day trade with these all the time. You guys will catch me doing this, where I'll actually go in and I'll find a whole day's trend and I'll just trade the trend the entire day. That's all I will do. So I believe this is going to be it right here. Oh, where's our 1800 at? Right, so here's your current trend, and then you could even apply it to the day before. And anyone that's been trading with me knows I'll do this. And let's get rid of this one. So this is the previous day trend. This is the trend from yesterday. It's obviously down. You can see that we're at the lows of the trend. We should be looking for reversals. We regain our channel, which ended right here because this is the end of that session. And we're still respecting it, respecting the EQ. Now we're looking up to hopefully the highs of the channel. And we trade this trend until it breaks. Another really great example is Q&T. You guys recall on Q&T, this is going to be a really, really simple one. Let me get rid of all this stuff here because you guys don't need to see all that. I understand that. And so again, if we come over to our trend, quarter four from 2021, this is all quarter four. All you were doing is selling the high and buying at the bottom of this channel, selling the high of it. And it's gotten things really, really well. Same settings, it's just quarter four price action, so October 1st to the end of the year, and we're just waiting for a trend reversal. And that's why when I put out that video and I said, you know, hey, if we lose $172 on like a closing basis, we're more than likely coming back down to the low of our trend, and we can, you know, we can start doing everything from Fibonacci, saying, okay, well, if we do that, where's my golden pocket? You know, where's my 786, my 886, where's my value? Do I have any horizontal levels of support down here, which we do. We have a weekly level here, we have a bi-weekly here, we have a weekly level here, right? So you can start figuring these things out yourself and saying, okay, well, if we end up losing that level, I should be looking down for my trend-based target, and then also where are my horizontals? Where can I start getting in at the lower half of this trend, trying to buy it, knowing that the trend is likely to eventually do something like this and reverse, and if it does, you're in a very good position to then take advantage of a trend change. So you're looking to buy at areas of value, looking to buy it at the less risky areas on the chart. That's all you're doing. This is not a difficult lesson at all. It's just something that if you guys start charting these time frames, whether it's like the monthly time frame or the quarterly time frame, you know, weekly even, I would prefer you guys to stick to the high time frames. That way you can get a really good idea of trend and when trends are changing, right? So that's really what I want you guys to note is, you know, like right here, you're making lower highs and lower lows. You've made a low here, another lower high, but you're trying to put in a higher low in this region. So what you'd like to see is a higher low formed, and then out of this trend it goes, and then you get a new bullish trend, and we can actually start extrapolating that, right? So like here's December, obviously it's not all that aggressive, but let's say this goes sideways for like another few weeks and then mid-January it does break out, right? So then you're just going to be monitoring your January trend and it'll have a different trajectory, okay? So hopefully that makes sense, guys. I appreciate you guys watching these. If you guys have questions about these videos, you can comment on the video, or you can go into the chat in the group and just tag myself or just ask the question, and I'm more than happy to try to get you guys an answer. All right. So appreciate you guys. Keep up the hard work, and I will see you in the next video.